My roommate jokingly slipped a ring onto my finger and grinned as she bowed to me. Congrats, sis-in-law. Her brother had died just last week. Was she trying to marry me off to a ghost? Still smiling, she added, Nobody at school's into you anyway. If my brother likes you, that's your lucky break. But I work as a local spirit envoy. I don't need her fixing me up with a dead man. Jessica Miller's brother died. After the funeral back home, she cried in the dorm all the time. Sometimes, she'd wake up at night to burn joss paper and chant weird stuff. She was already antisocial, and now everyone just found her annoying. I felt bad for her, so I offered a few words of comfort. Over the next few days, I stuck by, her went to class, ate meals, studied late with her. I even treated her to boba and a movie that weekend. Jessica was touched. Isabel, you're such a good person, she sobbed, hugging me. If only we were family. I gently patted her back. We've been in the same dorm for 3 years. That already makes us family. She giggled right away and held out her pinky. Then, Pinky, promise you'll be my family forever, okay? Jessica started to act more normal. She smiled more, sometimes looking at old photos and videos of her brother, asking me if he was good-looking. Honestly, he was average at best. Sunken forehead, small face, low nose bridge, the classic short-lived face. But I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I just nodded. Yeah, he's pretty handsome. Jessica kept her eyes on the phone, a smile tugging at her lips. He said, you're cute too. That whole semester, she stuck to me like glue. Sometimes her family would send local snacks dates. Walnut sand she always shared. I started to think maybe she wasn't so bad. One day, it was just the two of us in the dorm. Jessica pulled out a red cotton coat and said her mom made it just for me. She wanted me to try it on. The style was kind of old, like something out of a 1930s drama. Not really my thing. But it was a sweet gesture, so I put it on. To my surprise, it fit perfectly like it was tailor-made. Jessica's gaze changed. She kept saying how good I looked, then said she had a surprise gift, and told me to close my eyes and hold out my hand. I did as told. The moment I stretched out my hand, I felt something cold on my ring finger. When I opened my eyes, she had slipped a ring on it. It was icy, black and shiny with a faint red thread around it. While I stood there, stunned, Jessica bowed repeatedly. Congrats, my dear sister-in-law. Her eerie smile gave me the creeps. I tried to take the ring off, but it was stuck tight, like it had fused with my skin. I panicked. What is this? Get it off me. Jessica giggled and hugged me. If it won't come off, that means fate brought you two together. My brother picked you. A chill ran down my spine. But your brother's dead. Jessica looked deeply offended and yelled, He is not dead. He's the only son in 3 generations. He hasn't married or had kids yet, though. Could he die? Her face twisted in rage as she shouted. Then she dropped to her knees and clung to my legs, sobbing. At his funeral, the shoulder pole snapped while carrying the coffin. If that breaks, the whole family becomes wandering ghosts. We have to arrange a ghost marriage. Didn't you say you thought he was cute? I'm doing this for you. I was stunned. How could she say something so shameless with tears streaming down her face? I didn't respond, and she took it as hesitation. She started firing off reassurances. Come on, don't let the ghost marriage part freak you out. You won't have to die or anything. Just go home over winter break for the ceremony. After that, you can go back to school like normal. Just be buried with him after you die. I know you're a good person. You'd want to help, right? I stared at her, deadpan. So being a good person means I have to marry your dead brother? Jessica rolled her eyes at me. I'm doing you a favor. Think about if there's any guy hit on you in college. If my brother wants you, that's a blessing. You won't have to lift a finger. Our family will treat you like a full-time housewife. Where else could you get a deal like this? Don't be ungrateful. Looking at Jessica apathetic yet vicious, I felt utterly disgusted. I don't even want to marry a living man, and you're offering me a ghost? I treated you like a friend, and this is how you repay me? Jessica froze, the pitiful act vanishing. She stood up and sneered. All that fake kindness. Eating our food, wearing our clothes, using our stuff. And now, when it's time to give back, you're gone? I yanked at the ring, but it wouldn't budge. I ripped off the red coat and threw it in her face. Take your coat back. I'll break this ring off if I have to. Make a list of everything else. I'll pay you back to the last cent. As I tried to leave, Jessica jumped in front of the door. You wore the wedding coat. You put on the ring. You belong to our family now. If you don't go through with the ceremony, my brother will haunt you every day. Graduation, marriage, job, you'll fail at everything. Ungrateful bitch, you'll never know peace again. I'd never been so disgusted. I pointed at her and snapped, I don't want to talk to you. If your brother's so capable, tell him to show up now. I'd like to see how he plans to ruin my life. I thought Jessica was just possessed by grief, so I brushed it off. But that day turned into a disaster. I got called on in every class, broke my thermos while fetching hot water, and even sprayed snot on the campus heartthrob while joking with him. I figured something supernatural was going on. That night at my part-time job, I told the others, and nearly had them dying of laughter. My job? I work as a temp grim Reaper spirit envoy. My birth chart is extremely yin, and I got recruited shortly after arriving at college. I escort souls to the city god temple or the underworld for registration. But today, I hadn't seen any ghosts nearby. I suspected the ring. I tried several locksmiths, but none could cut it off. The ring had started tightening, like it was fusing with my finger. My boss, Jack, took one look and said, "That's a ghost marriage ring, after a man dies. Besides losing control of his bladder and bowels, he also releases one last spurt of sperm. This ring's made from that, mixed with corpse oil. If you wear it and don't go through with the wedding, you'll be cursed. Honestly, your bad luck is still mild." I flung my hand in disgust. No wonder I'd felt so off all day there was a dark cloud hanging over me. I asked Jack how to get rid of it. He said, "Simple. File a report with the local spirit envoy. Have them detain your fiancé. Once the engagement's void, the ring's power disappears." I snapped, "Fiancé, my ass! I'm being haunted." I cursed Jessica under my breath. I never should have been kind to her. Now I just wanted to scatter her brother's ashes. I made up my mind and asked, what if I capture that dead man myself? Jack thought for a second. If your classmate could get you that ring, she must have someone powerful in her family. You're still an intern. Better let the local envoy handle it. No way, I shot back. If this gets out, I'll be a joke in the whole department. Those comedians at the Underworld's annual party will turn it into a skit. Jack chuckled and handed me 3 spirit talismans. These are for Communication Chew 1, if you need help. He warned me to prioritize safety. If it gets too dangerous, call for backup. I nodded. Then I asked, if I go hunt a ghost in someone else's jurisdiction, am I stealing credit? I won't get written up, right? Jack sneered. If you can't bring him in, then yeah, I'll write you up. I went back and immediately texted Jessica. I was being ungrateful before. Marrying a living man these days? It all ends in single parenting anyway. Might as well have a ghost wedding and get it over with. Jessica smiled and praised me for being smart. After finals, Jessica and I hauled our suitcases straight to the train station. We took a train, then a coach, then a sketchy, unlicensed ride. After a long, bumpy journey, we finally arrived at a remote mountain village. Her dad, Old Man Miller, was already waiting at the entrance. When he saw Jessica bringing me back, his eyes lit up. He ogled me from head to toe for a full 5 minutes, then grinned. "Nice. This one's good." Jessica elbowed me. "What are you waiting for? Call him Dad." I fought the nausea and forced a smile. "Dad." Miller beamed and handed me a crisp 100 bill. "Here, your bride price." I pocketed the money and followed them into the village. Miller leaned in close and groped my butt. Grinning, he said, "She's got good hips, gonna be great for making babies. We're gonna have a big old family." I clenched my fists, forcing a smile while flames burned inside me. "All right then, if anyone's gonna end your family line, it'll be me." Jessica's house was packed men, women, kids all smoking, drinking, snacking on seeds. The whole place was a fog. As I walked in, they all turned to stare at me like I was merchandise. After Jessica introduced me around, her aunts and uncles and every extended relative started bombarding me. "What do your parents do? Are they government workers? How many siblings you got? What kind of house do you live in? Own a car?" I thought, isn't this just a ghost marriage? Do you really need a full background check? What's next? Asking for a dowry car. Then they started prying into my love life, gossiping about how these days college girls don't behave. Jessica quickly chimed in. "My sister-in-law's totally proper. She didn't date even once in college. Still a virgin. Sophomore year, she did confess to a senior on the basketball team. But his girlfriend tore into her the next day. Whole school knew. She came back crying." The whole room burst into laughter. I glanced at Jessica, thinking, "So you just tell anyone my embarrassing stories?" But this time, I wasn't playing nice. I lit a cigarette and smiled. "Yeah, I didn't know he had a girlfriend. Maybe I was just into his body. We did it a couple times. Nothing special. The breakdancing club guys were way better." The room fell silent. A few older women started whispering among themselves. Jessica's face flushed red, then turned pale. She shot me a warning look. I smiled. "Just kidding." Then added casually, "No matter how wild I used to be, I'll behave in the village." A couple of the old men looked visibly excited, their eyes sneaking glances at me. Old Man Miller quickly stepped in. "All right, it's late. Everyone go home now. My daughter-in-law needs to rest." After everyone left, I said I wanted to visit my husband. Old Miller said no. Then Jessica's mom came in, her expression a little odd. She said there were still things to do tonight. I asked what she meant. Jessica's eyes darted nervously. "You're one of us now. No sense letting outsiders benefit. Tonight, my uncle's third son is coming over to leave a seed." My whole body tensed. "What do you mean by that?" Jessica gave me a wicked push. "Don't play innocent." "You know exactly what I mean. I've already made all the arrangements. You'll stay here during your senior year internship to carry the baby. Once you give birth to a son, our family line continues. We'll even pay you 20,000 yuan. I was stunned. Wasn't it just a wedding ceremony? Why are there extra items on the list now? You think I'll have a baby for 20,000? Jessica sneered. "Isabel, what kind of attitude is that? You're our daughter-in-law now. You'll do what you're told. No more back talk." Jessica had already prepared hot water for me to bathe. While scrubbing my back, she leaned close and whispered coldly in my ear, "Don't try to be clever. No woman's ever made it out of this village alive. As long as you cooperate, we won't make things hard for you. We're still family." I didn't want to spook her or stir things up, so I pretended to go along. After my bath, Jessica took my phone and ID, dressed me in new clothes, and led me to a room in the East Wing. I stayed silent. Jessica assumed I was nervous. She leaned in and whispered, "Cut the act. I've seen you reading those dirty books under the covers. Uncle's third son is built like an ox. This is your lucky night." Then she grinned and shut the windows tight before leaving. Once it was quiet outside, I quickly oriented myself. Forming a hand seal, I faced the ghost gate in the northeast corner of the room and chanted, "Dark paths of the underworld, hidden portals of the living heed, my command, spirits, appear." Jack had taught me this during training, first time trying it in the field. After a pause, black mist gathered in the corner, and a long-haired woman in red stepped out. "What do you require of me, spirit envoy?" It was my first time working with a ghost. I was a little nervous. "I need a small favor. Do you, know about sexual matters?" The ghost immediately perked up. "I was killed by the men in this village." "Perfect," I said. "Here's your chance for revenge. One of them will be here soon." The ghost lit up. "Say no more. I'll kill him." "Whoa, hold up." I stopped her. "We can't go that fair. It'll mess up both our karma." Then I added, "Just rough him up. As long as he doesn't die, go wild." The door creaked open. A bulky, burly man walked in, reeking of booze and eyeing the room lustfully. The ghost's name was Fatima. She'd been drifting through the village for years, her spirit weak. But once I summoned her with an official exorcism chant, her power surged. She took on my appearance and lay on the bed. The third son drooled over Fatima's illusion, leapt onto the bed, and started groping. Ghosts don't have physical bodies, so they seduce through illusion. To him, it felt real. But to me, he was just rolling around with a pillow. Everything he felt was a hallucination triggered by Fatima. Lost in lust, he stripped and ripped off the sheets. Clutching the headboard, he started rocking the bed. "How's that, sis? In-law? Am I good?" Fatima twisted seductively and replied with a flirtatious moan while draining his yang energy. The bed creaked and groaned like it might collapse. Within seconds, he was completely drained. Wiping sweat from his forehead, he muttered something felt off. The guy looked like a brute, but who knew this toad could score a frog? Ugly on the outside, kinky on the inside. Just then, someone knocked. He opened the door to see a pale, skinny man. His face twisted in disgust. "What the hell are you doing here, Fourth?" The moment Fatima saw him, her hair stood on end, and her face twisted with rage. I sensed danger and quickly tried to calm her down. Fatima seethed. "He's the one who killed me!" Fatima had been a high schooler, trafficked here by human smugglers and sold to the fourth brother. By day, she worked like a beast. By night, he'd torment her. She tried escaping several times, but was always dragged back. Everyone in the village watched the trafficked women like hawks. There was no way out. After a few years, she died. She tried to seek justice in the afterlife, but the fourth got a protective charm from the village's shaman. That charm blocked her from getting near him. She planned to appeal in the underworld, but the village's barrier kept her trapped here. She became a wandering ghost, doomed to fade away. I looked closely at the fourth's neck. He wore a red glowing charm and a bamboo case-standard folk talisman for warding off spirits. I drew a ghost-banishing rune in the air and blew it onto his charm. It was an official underworld sealway more powerful than any folk talisman. His charm immediately lost its effect. With Fatima's powers boosted by stolen yang energy, she hypnotized both men. They started seeing each other as beautiful women, throwing themselves into a frenzy and pulling out every move they knew. I turned away. Fatima let out a sharp whistle. Dinner time! In the shadows, dozens of female ghosts appeared. They rushed forward to feast on the Fourth's energy before his charm could reactivate. I glanced back and froze. They were all women who had died unjustly, souls who'd never reincarnated, doomed to wander. Just how many women had this village killed? Fatima said this village worshipped sons and discarded daughters. Many baby girls were drowned at birth. When the boys grew up and couldn't find wives, they bought women from outside. Most ended up just like her. Most of the female ghosts were weak, but after feasting on yang energy, they all looked pale yet spirited. I told them to go hide, for once I completed the ghost marriage ceremony with Jessica's brother, I'd escort them to the Earth Deity Temple to file their complaints and finally reincarnate as humans. The moment I said that, several ghosts panicked. No, you'll get us all killed. That shaman is powerful. You can't beat him. If he gets mad, he'll obliterate us. We won't even get to be stray ghosts. Fatima snapped. I've had enough of being a stray ghost. Now that I finally have a shot at revenge, I don't care if I die. I'm dragging those bastards down with me. Cindy, the one leading the protest, shouted back. If you want to die, fine, but don't take us with you. I asked Cindy. Who is this village shaman anyway? Cindy quickly answered. He's Jessica's great-uncle old Master Miller. He's crazy powerful. We can't afford to cross him. The other ghosts chimed in nervously. Yeah, he's terrifying. Anyone who's resisted has been destroyed. You need to leave. Don't get us involved. I told them to relax. He might be a folk shaman, but I was a licensed underworld envoy. I had official backing from the netherworld. I wasn't scared of his tricks. They still looked unsure, so I asked Fatima to lead them away for now. I'd contact them when the time was right. After sending the ghosts off, I tried to call Jack, only to remember Jessica had confiscated my phone. So I chewed one of the spirit communication talismans. Once I got through and explained the situation, Jack was clearly surprised. He told me to be cautious and said he'd send backup right away, then got excited. This could be our big end-of-year performance boost. At dawn, Jessica and Old Lady Miller came into the room all smiles only to let out pig-slaughtering screams. I pretended to be asleep. Jessica shook me awake, shouting, What happened? I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and gasped. The fourth brother was lying provocatively in the third's arms, dressed in nothing but black stockings. Both of them were half naked and tangled together like glue. I buried my face in the blanket, mumbling something about sin, mostly trying not to laugh out loud. Jessica, furious, dragged me out of bed. I asked you to borrow some seed, not turn them gay. I put on a panicked face and shook my head furiously. I was so nervous last night. I drank myself into a stupor and passed out. I didn't know this would happen. I even started fake crying. Jessica, am I really that unattractive? Jessica stomped her foot in frustration and went to shake the two men. She found them soaked in sweat, lips pale, eyes ringed in black, both completely unconscious. Jessica called in 2 male cousins to carry them to the clinic. When they tried to lift them, they realized the two were stuck together, literally inseparable. Their mothers arrived and collapsed at the sight, crying and screaming for Old Lady Miller to take responsibility. Old Lady Miller was panicking too, slapping her thigh. I just told them to plant a seed, not duel with swords. Jessica tried to calm everyone down. Aunties, please let's not make this public. Saving them comes first. Jessica pulled the doors off their hinges to use as stretchers and instructed everyone to separate the two slowly. I rushed over to help. Hugging the third brother's waist, I yanked with everything I had. Crack! They came apart. The third brother woke up from the pain, looked down, screamed, and fainted again. People scrambled to plug the site with towels. Jessica stomped on my foot in fury. "Why'd you pull so hard?" I replied with a straight face. "But hey, they're apart, aren't they?" One aunt collapsed, wailing, "Oh no, our family jewels can't end here." Everyone scrambled to lift the third and fourth brothers and their mothers onto the makeshift stretchers and rush them out for emergency care. After they left, Jessica eyed me with deep suspicion. She searched the room thoroughly but found nothing wrong, still unable to make sense of what had happened. Finally, her face darkened. "The wedding is more important today, so I'll let this go. But you better listen if you don't give us a child. Don't even think about leaving." I acted nervous. "But what if? What if I'm not physically capable?" Jessica gave a cold smile. "You better pray you're not. Otherwise, you'll be begging me to find you a man." After breakfast, Jessica helped me get dressed hair done up, full, traditional red bridal outfit. Then she took me to the ancestral graves for a worship ceremony. When the rites were done, she told me to sit by the grave and wait. The wind was biting cold. I huddled up and asked, "When does it start?" Jessica shot me a look. Now you're more eager than me? Relax. As soon as the lucky hour arrives, the wedding procession will come." That's when it hit Meghost wedding start from the grave. So I waited there, freezing and hungry, for the ceremony to begin. As nightfall approached, I was nearly frozen stiff. A thick white mist rolled in, cloaking the mounded graves behind me in eerie layers. Through the biting wind came the shrill sound of a Swana horn. A soul-summoning banner swayed in the mist. Normally, these banners read, "Road to the Western Paradise." But this one said, "Ultimate Bliss of the West." Red joss paper fluttered like snowfall, swirling in the air as the wedding procession emerged from the fog. All the musicians were odd-numbered. Each wore black and kept their heads bowed. Some carried paper models of mansions, sports cars, jets, and yachts. Jessica clutched my arm, trembling with excitement as tears welled in her eyes. "Look how good my family's treating you. Who else gets jets and yachts and luxury cars at their wedding?" I thought to myself, all that paper junk couldn't even buy a bicycle. But I smiled and said, "Sure, when you get married, we'll send you a full set too." Jessica shot me a glare. "Don't say such ominous things on a happy day." Then she waved excitedly at the procession. "Brother, you're finally here!" A wave of cold, yin energy rushed past. That's when I saw a white horse among the crowd, carrying a black and white funeral portrait that smiled directly at me. In front of it sat a small incense burner. 8 pallbearers carried a sedan chair and stopped in front of me. The chair was pitch black, decorated with gold foil cut into double happiness symbols and Mandarin duck motifs creepy beyond words. The ghost matchmaker had a deathly pale face, with 2 bright red blush circles painted on her cheeks. Beaming, she came forward and draped a red bridal veil over my head, then beckoned me into the sedan chair to begin the wedding rites. Inside the chair, I secretly chewed another spirit talisman and contacted Jack to report. He told me to be careful and not act rashly until the shaman made his appearance. After a jostling ride, we arrived outside the Miller household. At the entrance was a massive fire basin, flames shooting over a meter high. I lifted the veil slightly and asked, "Why's there a fire basin?" Jessica sneered. "You don't know? It's to burn away bad luck so you don't bring anything nasty into our house." She grabbed my arm and tugged. "Come on, don't miss the auspicious hour." When we reached the fire basin, she poured a cup of oil into it. The flames roared up. Nearly 2 meters high, it looked terrifying. Jessica shouted joyfully, Let the fire roar. May your marriage blaze bright. I smirked coldly, lifted my foot, and leapt over the flames. As I landed, I pretended to lose balance and kicked the fire basin with my heel. Smack! The entire thing flipped and landed squarely on Jessica's head. If it had only been charcoal, it might have been fine, but now it had oil. Whoosh, her hair and clothes went up in flames instantly. Jessica screamed, hopping and flailing. A few ants rushed over to help some, yanked her clothes off, others threw cold water. The men in the wedding party stood by, snickering. I couldn't hold it in, and burst out laughing. Jessica! It's my wedding today, and you're over here rapping, dancing, and smoking like a roast chicken. Who's showing off now? The fire on her body was out, but she was burning with rage inside. She grabbed a liquor bottle to smash over my head, but an older woman stopped her just in time. I gave her a hush gesture. Today's your brother's big day. Don't ruin it for the family. Old Lady Miller glared at Jessica. Hurry up and get your sister-in-law to the ceremony. Jessica grumbled and cursed, changed clothes, slapped on a wig, and resumed her role as my bridesmaid. She held my arm and forced a smile while muttering venomously. Well, well, always thought you were a quiet one. Who knew you were such a snake? You'd better watch yourself, don't get too cocky. I didn't even bother responding. Messing with Jessica was just a bonus. What I really cared about was dealing with old Master Millerbutt, strangely. He hadn't shown up at all. Jessica led me inside. The front courtyard was packed with banquet tables and villagers drinking and laughing, looked like any regular wedding. But once we entered the back courtyard, everything changed. The main hall was eerily empty, no electric lights. Though red lanterns hung everywhere, none of them gave off warmth. Their glow was cold and haunting. On the table were a pair of red dragon phoenix candles. On either side sat Old Man and Old Lady Miller, their pale faces flickering in the red light, half human, half ghost. The ghost matchmaker shrieked beside me. The bride has entered fortune, and blessings enter with her. The bride enters the hall treasures. Fill the room. Through the veil, I saw 3 rows of chairs at the front of the hall. Not a single person sat on them. Instead, each chair held a wooden memorial tablet for Miller ancestors, no doubt. I stood in the hall as the matchmaker screamed again. The auspicious hour has arrived. Summon the groom. My heart pounded. I was a spirit envoy, used to guiding souls, but marrying one? That was new. Heavy footsteps approached. A wave of incense and corpse rot hit my nose. 2 groomsmen led the groom forward. He wore a Republican-era tuxedo, his face covered by a mask made of copper coins strung together with golden thread, completely obscuring his features. The matchmaker shouted at the groom, "You died too young. Your life unfulfilled. You sleep alone. In the underworld, such loneliness, even in death. The Wu family offers their daughter, as fleeting as autumn leaves, for this spirit union. This hour is chosen. This ritual, fated descend, and take your seat." When she finished, she called out to us, "Groom Kyle Miller, bride Isabelth, hour is now. Begin the wedding rites. First bow to heaven and earth. Second bow to the ancestors. Third, bow to each other." We performed the ritual bows. Then, with help from the groomsmen, Kyle Miller slowly straightened up. I thought I heard him chuckle. It wasn't quite human, and it wasn't quite ghost either. A chill crept down my spine. While I stood frozen, the ghost matchmaker scattered a handful of red paper money and declared, "Send them to the bridal chamber." The room was dimly lit, with only 2 red candles burning. The groomsmen carried the groom to the bed and laid him down. Jessica looked on with satisfaction. "Brother, you're finally married." Then she turned to me. "The county just called fourth brother's dead, and third had an emergency removal surgery. We're fresh out of family seed donors." I let out a quiet sigh. "Maybe it's fate," Jessica sneered. "Yeah, fate says you can only carry my brother's child." She patted my face through the veil. "Tonight, you better make sure you get pregnant." Jessica turned to the ghost matchmaker. "Begin." The matchmaker's sinister grin made me uneasy. "Didn't we just finish the wedding rites? What more is there?" She chuckled. "After the ceremony comes the consummation." Two groomsmen pinned me to the bed. They lit an incense stick as thick as a chopstick and placed it between my legs. "Clamp it tight," they said. Then they put one between Kyle Miller's legs. The matchmaker explained, "Only when this yin-yang harmony incense burns does the consummation count. If you extinguish the flame, I'll break your legs." I quickly feigned compliance. "I won't move, but if you stand there, how are we supposed to consummate?" The matchmaker grinned. "Don't worry, as long as you behave, we won't disturb your special moment." Then she and the groomsmen giggled and left the room. The room went silent. Only the smoke from our incense sticks twirled together in the air. I had to admit this shaman was no joke. The incense really did bridge yin and yang. But even after a while, the groom's soul didn't appear. Just as I was getting suspicious rustle something moved in the room. Listening closely, I realized it was coming from right beside me. The groom's corpse had started twitching. I'd seen many ghosts and corpses before, but this was my first time seeing a reanimated one. He slowly sat up, and as he moved, the stench from his belly seeped out thick and putrid. Strange squeaks came from his mouth. His coin mask fell onto the bed. That's when I saw the charm stuck to his forehead, strange, twisted runes. I suddenly remembered what Jack once told me. Corpse control magic. Even more dangerous than corpse herding. I couldn't believe I was witnessing it now. Worse, the corpse was undressing. His upper body was pale and bony like a skeleton, but his lower half was rising. He was dead, yet still so lustful. Then I realized Jessica had said she wanted me to get pregnant with her brother's child. I thought she was just being dramatic, but they were dead serious. Usually it's people who defile corpses, but this time, the corpse was about to defile the living. The groom started crawling on top of me. I tried to fight back but couldn't move. That's when I remembered the incense. Besides linking the yin and yang realms, the incense also had a sedative effect. No wonder the matchmaker wasn't worried about resistance. My limbs grew heavier as the groom tore at my clothes. In desperation, I cried out, "Husband!" He paused. Seeing that it worked, I puckered my lips and called again. He giggled strangely and leaned in for a kiss. The stench was unbearable. As he got close, I summoned all my strength and blew at his face. The corpse control charm fluttered loose, hanging by just one corner. Half his face was revealed. His expression turned blank, his movements sluggish like a sloth. I rolled over and crushed the incense between my legs, then tumbled off the bed and threw open the window, gasping for air. So much for doing this solo I had to call the local spirit envoy. I traced a summoning sigil in my palm and recited the incantation. My palm pulsate worked, but I panicked even more. The indicator showed the envoy was less than 3 feet away inside the room. But aside from the groom and me, there was no one else here. I looked around. Suddenly, 2 glints flashed beneath the bed. An iron chain shot out and wrapped around my neck. It was a soul-binding chain used by official envoys to rip souls from bodies. It glowed red, far more powerful than mine. An old man crawled out from under the bed, grinning wickedly. I didn't need to ask, I knew. He was the village's shaman. Jack Miller. He'd been hiding under the bed all along, controlling the corpse. I stared at him in disbelief. You're a spirit envoy? Old Master Miller sneered. I warned you not to meddle. You just had to ask for death. Behind him, ghostly figures swirled. I recognized familiar faces, Cindy, and even Fatima. She was now bound by the soul-binding chains. With a sudden yank, Miller pulled my soul from my body. My physical form collapsed. Seeing my own limp body on the ground, I knew I was screwed. I'd end up just like those women. I tried to resist, but his chains were too strong. I shouted at him. You're an envoy too. How can you do this? He puffed on his cigarette and replaced the corpse's charm. I've studied the occult all my life. I've mastered both yin and yang, feng shui. Divination yet I've remained poor. All my descendants died young. Why? I scoffed. Because you spent your life cheating fate. You've earned your bad karma, he nodded. Cultivating the Tao is stealing heaven's secrets. So what? I refuse to accept my fate. That's why I brought you here to fix the feng shui of our ancestral grave. I was stunned. You knew I was an envoy. This was your plan from the start? Miller grinned. Exactly. Your birth chart is the rarest of Yina perfect vessel to reverse our family's fortune. He formed a soul-refining hand seal and pointed it at me. I'll turn your soul into a tomb guardian to bless our ancestral grave yin to the extreme, rebirth through darkness. He chanted as a green glowing barrier lit up the ground beneath me. I was trapped. With a forceful shove, he sent a massive soul-refining seal crashing toward me. If it landed, my soul would be bound to his grave forever. I whipped my head, and a mourning staff popped out of my left ear. Miller's chain vanished the moment he saw the staff. In his hesitation, I grabbed it and struck back. Boom! His seal shattered. He stumbled to the ground, staring in shock at the staff in my hand. Clutching the mourning staff, my soul returned to my body. As I stood, I trembled. The staff's power was immense. My department boss had given it to me for protection, thank God. Miller retracted his chain and stood up, then grinned toward the side. The groom lunged at me like a zombie. I swung the staff, just a tap sent him flying like he'd touched a live wire. Meanwhile, Miller had fled. I gave chase and ran into Jessica, who was charging at me with a butcher's knife, followed by a gang of Miller relatives. Jessica pointed the knife at me, grinning viciously, then lunged. I sighed honestly. I didn't want to use the staff on her, so I tucked it away and kicked her wrist. The knife flew. I kicked her again, sending her face first into the dirt. Really? Did she forget I'm not only a spirit envoy, but also a Sanda champion? I floored the others with a few punches and kicks, then grabbed Jessica by the collar and lifted her. She finally panicked, dropped to her knees, and clung to my leg, begging. I kicked her away. She crawled back, still clinging to my leg. I sensed something was off. Just as I was about to shake her off, splash! Something stinky and wet drenched me. I instantly knew what it was. Old Master Miller stood on the roof, having dumped a bucket of waste on me. He held a peachwood sword and coffin nails. Before I could speak, the groom charged me again, arms like steel clamps. Miller lit a charm with his sword, bit his tongue, and spat blood onto the blade, shouting a final incantation. Boom! The sword shot at me, carrying all of Miller's dark energy. I'd seen flying sword attacks before, but none this oppressive. Covered in filth, my power was weakened. I broke free of the groom and rolled. The sword twisted in midair, chasing me. I grabbed Jessica and yanked her in front of me. Crack! The sword pierced her chest. Though it didn't cause much physical damage, its spiritual impact was devastating. Jessica's body fell limp, but her soul screamed as it was ejected. In that instant, dozens of ancestral spirits flew from the hall. They'd smelled her soul and thought she was Miller's new tomb guardian. They seized her and dragged her toward the family grave. Jessica screamed and cried, but it was useless. In moments, she vanished, likely doomed to serve those perverted old spirits for eternity. Miller slumped on the rooftop. That last strike had exhausted his life's power. He gave me a bitter smile, but before he could speak again, the girl ghosts surrounded him. The women he'd once trapped in the village were now closing in. A lifetime of dark magic couldn't save him from karmic backlash. I didn't stick around for his cries. I ran. I needed a bath covered in filth, but the mission was complete. The ghost marriage ring slid off on its own. The wandering spirits were finally reborn. A new envoy was assigned to the village, and spiritual oversight was tightened. Not long after, the police arrested several traffickers from the village. I'd helped boost the department's performance, and was officially promoted to full-time spirit envoy. Still, I ended up as the punchline at the Underworld annual roast. They said I was the most over-the-top spirit envoy in history. Maybe that's why, for a long time, I couldn't find a boyfriend.